how you see the visit by Russian president, 2 days visit by Russian president to India at a time when entire Europe and United States is against Russia.
The US led efforts to mediate and end the Ukraine war have so far not succeeded. So US is not happy with Russia. We see an era in which US attempt to improve relations with Moscow have failed. And Western European concerns due to declining US security commitment towards Western Europe have also led to greater military buildup against Russia. And this has forced President Trump to put more pressure on Prime Minister Modi's government to reduce the defense, energy, nuclear relations with Moscow. Now, US is convinced that India lacks both the will and the military capability to counter China, which was exposed by Pakistan. So US has downgraded India as a major ally as part of its Indo-Pacific strategy. It's been 18 years when I witnessed the signing of the Indo-US nuclear deal in Washington, and that India continues to rely heavily on Russian nuclear and military technology and ignore repeated US offers to benefit from US technology. Mr. Trump almost sends a weekly reminder to Prime Minister Modi that how many latest modern and expensive Rafale fighters they have lost in a conflict with Pakistan. So this is very embarrassing for India.
How Pakistan will be able to maintain its these all ties, cooperation, mainly in energy field, because Pakistan is an energy deficient country and desperately seeking Russian energy cooperation. So how Washington would be viewing this?
Unlike India, Pakistan-Russia relations are purely based on mutual cooperation and bilateral interests.
True.
They are not aimed at building an alliance or a partnership against any other great power or regional power.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, when we talk of the regional situation, there is a significant development in the region that Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting India. That is quite significant visit. In today's conversation, we would like to know that what is the significance of Russian president's visit to India in the regional context, and what's its significance in the global context. The visit is taking place at a time when India is facing huge criticism, huge pressure from Washington to reduce its oil imports from Moscow, reduce its trade and imports from Russia in different domains. So far, there have been a number of developments that emerged from New Delhi, including an announcement by Russian president that Russia will help India in building a nuclear power plant. In return, India announced a massive relaxation of Indian visa for Russian tourists. In addition to this, there have been commitments, there have been, of course, agreements to enhance bilateral cooperation. And on the top of it, on Russian oil to India, Russian president announced that Russia will continue to supply rather uninterrupted supply of Russian oil to India. These all moves will definitely generate American anger. So to discuss this all, and also what is its significance for Pakistan, what is its significance for Indian foreign policy, and these all things, we are fortunate to have with us Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali, Senior Strategic Affairs Analyst. Dr. Muhammad Ali Saab, thank you so much for joining us despite your very busy schedule on this important issue and development. I would like to begin with this: how you see the visit by Russian president, 2 days visit by Russian president to India at a time when entire Europe and United States is against Russia.
Thank you for having me on your show, Mr. Mateen. I think this
Here to have.
visit and its timing is very significant for a number of reasons. Let me explain that this visit has taken place at a time when the US led efforts to mediate and end the Ukraine war have so far not succeeded. And despite meeting President Putin, President Trump failed to persuade him to end hostilities with Ukraine. And in the last few days, there has been a major escalation between the Russian and Ukrainian military forces.
Sure.
And this indicates that the U.S. Ability to persuade Mr. Putin to achieve a ceasefire have not yielded any results. So U.S. is not happy with Russia. Secondly, Europe is also worried because Mr. Trump expects Western Europe and NATO countries to offer greater contribution themselves towards budget and military armament against Russia. Now, that has encouraged Western European countries to invest more heavily in their own defense budget, and they continue to view Russia as a major threat. So we see an era in which US attempt to improve relations with Moscow have failed. And Western European concerns due to declining US security commitment towards Western Europe have also led to greater military buildup against Russia. And this has forced President Trump to put more pressure on Prime Minister Modi's government to reduce the defense, energy, nuclear relations with Moscow. Now, India is in a very difficult situation right now because India presented itself before the US for the last 25 years as the frontline ally against China.
Exactly.
But after Pakistan's successful military effort in May this year, now US is convinced that India lacks both the will and the military capability to counter China, which was exposed by Pakistan. So US has downgraded India as a major ally as part of its Indo-Pacific strategy. But it is using its pressure on Modi administration to reduce its economic, energy, defense, and nuclear relations with Moscow in order to isolate Mr. Putin and reduce their export revenue. Because India, Mr. Mateen, is the largest market for Russian nuclear reactors, for Russian defense equipment, and third largest market of its energy exports after Ukraine war. So US pressure on India is aimed at reducing the export revenue of Russia. But it seems that instead of trying to meet US expectations, Modi administration wants to improve its relations with Moscow. So they have realized that their expectations from the US are not going to be ambitious anymore. And now I will explain further that how and why India continues to maintain and develop further nuclear, security, defense, industrial and energy cooperation with Moscow, despite US anger. So that is the priority that India gives to Moscow in comparison to Washington.
Dr. Saab, you have mentioned rightly, May Marika Haq, that Pakistan got strategic win over India and it destroyed Indian arrogance. So, as you mentioned just in your reply, that India is seeking greater defense cooperation from Russia. And India has already Russian made fighter jets, and as you mentioned, would be seeking more advanced defense equipment from Russia. How these all things will have an impact on South Asian security?
Okay, let's talk about how India plans to build up its military after the May conflict with Pakistan. I think it is very clear, Mateen Saab, that despite some very attractive and lucrative offers from Trump administration, including the latest fifth generation F-35 fighter, and I was in Washington when US offered India the Indo-US nuclear deal.
Exactly.
And they also supported India's case for UN Security Council permanent membership. They also supported India's membership of nuclear suppliers group and other export control regimes like Wassenaar arrangement, like Australia group, and like missile technology control regime. So, but after this year's May conflict with Pakistan, US has realized that it was betting on the wrong horse because India lacked the will and capability to contain China, because they cannot even absorb Pakistan's retaliation spread over a few hours. How can they meet and counterbalance China? So thankfully, US has realized this, that investing in Indian hard power is not going to help India rise against China. So that is a reality that Trump administration is the first US administration to realize and understand, unlike the previous US administrations. So this provides an opportunity for Pakistan as well to improve ties with the US. But since we are talking about the defense cooperation, US offer has not met with favorable response from India regarding F-35. And according to very respectable and seasoned Indian defense experts, they continue to prefer Russian equipment over US equipment because their training, maintenance, logistics, budget, culture is still heavily pro-Russia. And they continue to explore and show more interest in the fifth generation Russian fighter Sukhoi 57, which is a cheaper fighter than F-35. But India expects that, unlike US, Russia will offer it transfer of technology as well. Secondly, India used BrahMos missile against Pakistan in the May conflict, which is a product of joint venture between Russia and India. So I think India will continue to develop that missile further. And it is also developing naval platforms, and they have ambition to develop more nuclear submarines as well. And its submarines are primarily of Russian design. The current Indian nuclear submarines are powered by Russian reactors. And the design of those submarines are also of Russian origin. And India has an ambition nuclear-powered submarine fleet plan. And all these submarines that India plans to develop, induct in years to come are going to be based on Russian design. So what I want to emphasize that it's been 18 years when I witnessed the signing of the Indo-US nuclear deal in Washington, and that India continues to rely heavily on Russian nuclear and military technology and ignore repeated US offers to benefit from US technology.
Doctor, when we talk of Indian domestic politics, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi did not permit opposition leader Rahul Gandhi to meet US President. So Modi was so scared of opposition that Rahul could have exposed his wrongdoings, could have exposed his so-called democracy. So preventing opposition leader Rahul Gandhi from meeting the Russian president that has exposed so-called democracy. So it wanted to cover up certain things. How you see this particular action by Indian Prime Minister not permitting the political parties, opposition political parties mainly, to meet Russian president?
I think after the May conflict with Pakistan, India's relationship with US has completely transformed. And I want to remind you that when Pakistan's army chief and the new chief of defense forces, Field Marshal Syed Munir, was invited for a lunch at the White House, President Trump also called Prime Minister Modi, who was at that time in Canada attending the G7 summit. And he invited him to join President Trump for a lunch, but Prime Minister Modi declined US offer, and he avoided making a visit to the US because he did not want to see and face the US president after an embarrassing debacle with Pakistan. After that, you would remember that there have been very significant tariff changes that US has undertaken around the world, which includes with Pakistan. And Pakistan was very careful, but Pakistan was very responsible, and we actively and timely negotiated with the US and negotiated a favorable tariff regime as compared to India. Whereas India was less than forthcoming, and they had an arrogant attitude towards the US, which the US did not like, and it led to imposition of very heavy tariffs, almost 50% tariff on the US market for the Indian goods. And India has almost $87 billion worth annual exports only to the US, and they are going to be heavily affected by these tariffs. Now, the third factor was the heavy dependence of India on Russian oil. Now, this really annoyed Trump administration because US wanted to squeeze economically the export revenue of the Moscow. And at that time, a strategic partner, a leading strategic partner of the US, which is India, is buying a large quantity of Russian oil. The US viewed it as a sponsoring of Russian war effort against Ukraine, which Trump administration was trying to end. So that really angered the Trump administration. So I think in repeated subsequent international and multilateral events, the Indian Prime Minister avoided an audience with the US president, including the UN General Assembly, where you also went to cover for V News English. So I think, and then there has been another summit regarding the Asian security, in which Mr. Modi was not present, and he also avoided meeting President Trump. So, and the last factor, which is very important, Mr. Trump almost sends a weekly reminder to Prime Minister Modi that how many latest modern and expensive Rafale fighters they have lost in a conflict with Pakistan. So this is very embarrassing for India. So basically, the US current policy towards India has embarrassed India. It has punished India economically. It has pressurized India to reduce its energy cooperation with Moscow, but it has also embarrassed India internationally by repeatedly reminding it that how badly they suffered at the hands of Pakistan after attacking it in May. So I think to conclude, India's relationship with the US has completely transformed after the conflict in May, which is why the opposition leaders, including Rahul Gandhi, are exploiting this situation and further embarrassing Modi administration at home.
Dr. Saab, the question is from Pakistan's context. Last week, we have seen high-level ministerial dialogue, 10th ministerial energy dialogue between Pakistan and Russia. And during that, number of memorandum of understandings between Islamabad and Moscow were signed. So it was 3 days visit by Russian energy minister to Pakistan. So at a time when Pakistan is aligned with Washington very closely, and we are witnessing upward trajectory of bilateral relations between Pakistan and United States. How Pakistan will be able to maintain its these all ties, cooperation, mainly in energy field, because Pakistan is an energy deficient country and desperately seeking Russian energy cooperation. So how Washington would be viewing this?
I think it's a very important question. I think there are three things in which Pakistan-Russia relations are completely different from India-Russia relations. Number one, unlike India, Pakistan-Russia relations are purely based on mutual cooperation and bilateral interests.
True.
They are not aimed at building an alliance or a partnership against any other great power or regional power. Whereas the Russia-India relations have always been against the US interests throughout the Cold War. So there is a history which I'm sure Washington will not overlook or ignore, that India is improving its relations with its traditional strategic ally, Moscow, despite US anger and annoyance. Secondly, Pakistan-Russia relations are not at the same level and scale at which India-Moscow relations have been. India is Russia's largest export market for its defense exports, for its armament, and also for its nuclear industry.
True.
There are 22 nuclear reactors in India, and most of these are of Russian origin. And I earlier pointed out all the Indian nuclear submarines are powered by Russian reactors. India is reluctant to buy anything of US origin in the nuclear domain or in the military domain. So that is not making Washington happy. Thirdly, Pakistan-Russia relations are primarily aimed at meeting and overcoming the regional security challenges of terrorism and drugs trade and smuggling. And I think Afghanistan is an area of common concern because Russia also does not want the revival and rise of global terrorist organizations, particularly like Daesh, ISKP, in Afghanistan, which were involved in attacks inside Moscow as well. And secondly, they are not happy with the revival of drug smuggling and drugs trade and criminal activity from Afghan territory. So that is something which Pakistan shares with Moscow in terms of its own regional and national security priorities. But as I earlier pointed out, all these factors are based on mutual interest and bilateral level. They are not aimed at countering or challenging any other power. Whereas in case of India, India tried to fool the US for 25 years that please help me become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Please make me a member of the strategic export control regimes. Please give me nuclear technology. I'll use all this technology and diplomatic support to contain China. And now, after US is becoming more demanding from India to reciprocate its goodwill and support, it is becoming closer to Moscow and avoiding engagement, as you rightly pointed out, with President Trump, despite repeated invitations. So that clearly exposes where the Modi administration's priorities actually lie.
Another important factor is Russia is short of facing severe shortage of skilled workers in the wake of Ukrainian war. Russia needs skilled workers, construction workers in technology, in industry. A large number of workers are required in different sectors of Russia. And there was also discussion that India may send these workers to Russia. So if we look at Pakistan, Pakistan's youth is 60% of Pakistan's population is youth, skilled, educated in IT, in industry. So don't you think it's an opportunity for Pakistan to immediately discuss this matter with Russia, that Pakistan can export its human resource, young skilled workers to Russia, because in Pakistan there is already surplus youth skilled in different fields.
I agree with you, Mr. Mateen Saab. I think one of our finest and very energetic ambassador has recently arrived in Moscow, who you recently interviewed. Mr. Faisal Tirmizi is one of the finest diplomats that we have, and I'm sure he'll play a very important role in creating opportunities for Pakistan and Pakistanis. However, I think there are some cultural and linguistic challenges which will require Pakistani youth to learn Russian language and develop an understanding of their culture and system. And once they do that, I'm sure they will explore attractive opportunities in different sectors, which will improve their quality of life and also bring the two countries together and earn Pakistan valuable foreign exchange.
Since long, we have been listening that Moscow will help Pakistan, particularly, and few helicopters, Russian-made helicopters, were given in last few years to Pakistan in fight against terrorism. So, how you see in the days to come? This is my last question: Pakistan, Russia, greater cooperation in different fields that may not annoy Washington.
I think both Russia and Pakistan have a very pragmatic and realistic approach towards engagement at bilateral level. There are several areas in which we are cooperating. As I earlier pointed out, drugs is a common concern. Terrorism is a common concern. We've held many exercises, many military exercises against counterterrorism in Pakistan as well. And I think both countries have recovered from the legacy of the Cold War, and they want to put the Afghan war behind them and look forward to exploring new and diverse opportunities in different sectors, including energy, including electricity, including heavy industries, including IT and other sectors which can bring the two countries together. So I think it's a good omen for both countries that they have put the history and Afghan conflict legacy behind them, and they want to move together for a more stable, more prosperous and progressive, and a safer Eurasian landmass.
Last question, since we are talking about global security, geopolitics, Pakistan's great success against India in May and Pakistan-Saudi Arabia strategic agreement. In the backdrop of these all developments, how you see elevation of Field Marshal Asim Munir to the rank of this Chief of Defense Forces? What message has gone to the region and beyond?
I think Field Marshal Asim Munir is a very competent, very professional and fortunate person. He has faced many challenges in his life, both personally and professionally. But I think he has proved both through his character,
Mm.
courage, and
Capability.
clarity
Correct.
that he can overcome both personal and professional challenges. And the manner in which he steered and led Pakistan's response
Mm.
in the May conflict after Indian
Sure.
aggression has not just convinced Pakistani nation and military, but also all our friends and international community that Pakistan is no longer just a South Asian power. Pakistan is a leading power of the Muslim world, and our military is the best in the world, and its leadership is also one of the finest in the world, which is why he has been invited by the US, by China, by
Saudi
Britain,
Arabia,
by Saudi
Qatar,
Arabia, Qatar, and so many
UAE.
countries. And Mr. Trump never fails to appreciate him at any international
Mm.
event. So I think he has earned that respect
Exactly.
around the world, and he has earned the trust of Pakistani nation at home as well. And under the the new responsibilities that he will have greater responsibility to synergize, coordinate,
Mm.
and make more effective plans to meet Pakistan's domestic, regional, and international challenges in a more resource efficient, more timely manner. This CDF will enable a greater operational clarity, better coordination, better synergy, more resource efficient planning, and swifter decision making at the strategic level during future conflicts, crises, and peace.
Thank you so much indeed, Dr. Syed Mohammad Arisab, Senior Strategic Affairs Analyst, for sharing your strategic thoughts, insightful analysis on Russian President's visit to India and what could be its impact on the region globally, how Washington views this. And at the end, you mentioned very precisely the elevation of Field Marshal Asim Munir to the position of Chief of Defense Forces, and what will be its impact on country's defense and how he will be able to overcome the emerging security challenges from eastern and western borders. Thank you so much once again for sparing time and participating in our program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, till our next program, goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.